What's up, guys? Hey, I know it's been a while. For a multitude of different reasons, the month of December it just proved to be incredibly stressful and busy for me at my current job, so I really wasn't able to work on editing and finalizing two podcasts that I'd already recorded. Yeah, things just sort of popped off. And I also recently had to upgrade several things on my computer, mainly moving Adobe Premiere and all the software I use to make podcasts to a new M2 drive that I recently installed. And so that sort of took away from any production I had planned for the month. Nevertheless, I'm back. I have bigger plans for what I want to do going forward, different content I want to start putting out, but more on that later. Without further ado, let's get on with it. I'll just let Jinsoo introduce himself.
Yeah, my name is Jinsoo Park, and I went to the same high school as you did in Bangkok. Graduated, went to Korea, and actually, those were just two of the countries that I just lived in at that time,
Mm-hmm.
like back and forth. But after I went to the army for 2 years, I realized that I didn't really want to stay in one place for a long time. So I did a lot of part-time jobs, just general contract work,
Mm-hmm.
like quick money. And I saved up enough to go to a transfer program, which allowed me to go to Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Holland. Yeah, and what you mentioned by like I've been everywhere, I think those are just travel photos that I that I went when I was in Amsterdam, because you can go to a lot of countries
Yeah.
in Europe. They're all close by. And that was in 2018, which was already 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I came back to Korea, graduated in August of this year.
Congratulations, dude. You managed to do all that in 6 years. It took my dumbass 6 years to actually graduate college, so
No, 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 James. I don't think there's like a metric for what's correct, what's the right way of doing things, man. You have your own pace, and you probably gained a lot of stuff along the way too. So you know, no
yeah.
worries with that, man.
I hear you talking
Yeah,
because you talked about it on the thoughts and prayers, throughout various episodes, and so I could kind of hear that thing that a lot of people struggle with. A lot of people hear, well, you go to college and there's this sort of after high school, I'd say there's this kind of thought in people's minds where you're supposed to have like kind of a ladder of progression, and everybody kind of
hmm,
advances at a different stage. It's so easy, honestly, to compare yourself to others, right? I mean, to compare yourself and your circumstances to other people's circumstances, and I think
hundred
in
percent.
those sessions, I could kind of hear it in your voice a little bit, where like you would kind of you felt like you'd missed out on the quote unquote traditional um college
Right.
experience, or just because you have to do military service, or just because this and that. I think it's cool that um in a way, listening to your sessions, I was what came what went through my mind was you've had the chance through those years to kind of mature up a bit before you started your college years, because you get a bunch of 18, 19-year-olds going to college for the first time. They're horny as all hell, and oh man, like I don't know how it is in Korea, but in the United
Is
States,
this from
it's
personal experience?
has to be, right? But for me, and from
Yeah.
I went to a conservative Christian college, um,
Yeah.
quote unquote
Taylor. Yeah.
conservative, Taylor University. You may know some people that went there, but but you wouldn't believe it. But these people at that young of age, it's just you don't people develop, they continue developing up to a certain age, right? And you had the chance to mature and find yourself in the military, like at least for a few years, although you probably didn't enjoy it initially, if you enjoyed
Yeah. No, there was no part of me that enjoyed it. Although looking back,
it. Mm-hmm.
it was pretty remarkable in the sense that, just like you said, it matures someone up in the army. But I also don't wish it on, like the people that come after me, like the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, in the end, it's just 2 years of time wasted. You could be doing
Yes.
way better stuff that, you can learn, life
Mm-hmm.
lessons or whatever. Doesn't have to be in the army. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Did
But other than
um
that, yeah.
did you ever? How did they come to make it 2 years specifically? And I realize that's a common trend
Yeah.
across smaller countries. Singapore,
Right.
obviously Israel.
Yeah.
Everybody has to serve. But how did they come to make it just 2 years, and why is it important that it's 2 years, guys?
So the duration of the army, the period of when you have to be in the army, it kind of parallels with international relations. So for Korea, it has to be with
Okay.
North Korea because we're technically at war with North Korea. Around like a decade ago, army service would be around 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
even four around. So it keeps decreasing as there are less tensions, there are less skirmishes, there are less happenings. So mine was technically 21 months. Now that Yesong, another one of our former classmates,
Mm-hmm.
he has just been discharged very recently. He had to do around 18 months. So you see that trend that's going down. It's
Right.
decreasing over time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully in the future it doesn't have to be mandatory.
Because in high school you must have seen us go through it. Yeah, in our own form. In Thailand, it's like for us, we chose to
Yeah,
do,
yeah, yeah,
we it was
yeah,
a lot of people, actually most
yeah.
people probably don't know how the conscription draft works in Thailand, and it's very bizarre
Right.
when you try to explain that to people. But basically, what we were doing was choosing the lesser of two evils, right? It's because if you
True.
don't
Yeah.
do military school while you're in high school, ROTC, as I put it, they put it, you have to go into base at a certain age. I think the age is 21, and then you have to go in, and they do an embarrassing shirts off army exam, like medical exam on you, like medical.
Hmm.
You're bunched in with a other group of people. You kind of have to bring your stuff because at the end of it all, they call you up and they hold you in place. I don't know if you've seen those videos. This is one very famous one of Nish Kun, who, I mean, 2 p.m. He had to do it as well, and yeah, it was this whole media farce surrounding it. But basically, you already know the story, but I'm saying it for people who might be listening.
Yeah.
It's like they hold you in place. The military. You go into base or wherever you're told to go, and then
Hmm.
they hold you in place. You put your hand into a bucket. You draw a black flag, free to go for life. Damn.
Right. Yeah.
You'll hear them call damn, and you'll see a huge sigh of relief from the guy. But if you draw red, they pretty
They're
much
in.
shave your hair on the spot. You're not allowed to go home, and you're assigned to a sanction of the
Yeah.
military on the
Yeah.
spot. So it's basically playing a huge lottery game, and I hate to say it, but it's mostly corrupt because if you look remotely athletic, or if you look like remotely normal, guess what? They're gonna find a way to get you into that system. You know.
Yeah.
Um. So in high school, it must have kind of dawned on you on a certain point. You know what my friends are going through. I'm gonna have to go through at a certain point. Did that ever get changed or affect you in any way? Just knowing at the end of your high school experience, shortly thereafter, you'd be going through the
Um.
same thing as us. Or
Well, like truthfully, no, because I didn't have the capacity to think
mm-hmm.
ahead of time when I was in high school. I didn't have that mental capacity. All I remember was laughing at you guys for shaving off your heads every other week, and
It stuck
giving
with
you
me,
guys
dude.
shit. Yeah,
Yeah,
for like, oh, you have to wake up like a Saturday at 6 a.m.
yeah. But
Like, yo,
that's
you got to
nothing
do that for
compared to
three
what you
years.
guys did. That's nothing compared to what
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
did, though. That's
In the end, a
crazy.
lot of friends messaged me while I was in the army, and they were like, "Yo, this is
Mm-hmm.
karma for you laughing at us in high school." I'm like, okay, I
Oh.
deserve that.
Well, while we're on the subject of haircuts, which country do you think does it better in terms of I know the student haircut
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Thai army isn't it
Hmm.
isn't very forgiving. It's kind of
Right.
very obvious, and it can change the way customers, or it can change the way restaurants treat you depending on where you go. It's just like,
True.
oh,
True.
you're just thick and you're probably skipping school to come here or whatnot. But kind of describe day to life. You just haircut, right? Were you used to that at all? Because you never, up until that point, had you ever gone bald? Had you ever gone like short
No,
before?
no.
No.
I always had like a shorter cut, like even right now, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like military level short. Um, in Korea though, it's not as um you won't turn heads more than you will in other countries because there are so many guys,
That have to do
you
it.
know, right, like
Hmm.
currently and all the other people who've done it before. So it just blends in with the crowd. There's nothing unusual about it. And also, I think I should mention before we, like we other people get the wrong impression that like I am not an army person. Like I just had to go through it. Everyone goes through it,
Yeah,
so
everyone goes through it, but
hopefully
people don't
nothing.
realize that. A lot of people don't realize because army service means different things for different countries. Right? If you decide to go into the army in Thailand, that's a choice. It's a full on choice after you've done military service. You set out a disclaimer of you're not in the military, we're not, and both you and I understand it, and our cohorts, our friends understand that. But for people that
Right,
don't know, I mean, this stuff is mandatory and it is ingratiated, it's
right,
ingrained into your human experience today. And so
right.
it kind
Yeah,
of affects the way
something
you
that
you
all Korean
approach.
guys have to go through.
Yeah, yeah. To kind of segue off the military service or whatnot, it says um so you have completed your college experience. Congratulations on that. So
Thank
you
you,
find
sir.
yourself just traveling to Thailand. And honestly, when I was thinking about, guests to have on, I was reading a news article about how Thailand has handled COVID-19 and how they've supposedly been among the world's
Mm-hmm.
greatest
Right.
at handling the situation. Now you've had firsthand
Mm-hmm.
experience at this. I tried to interview someone earlier, about 4 months ago. This is a girl that I barely even knew, but on my Instagram, I'm like, oh, she's going through a quarantine, kind of like, I'm gonna try to get her on my pod.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, she declined because but um,
Right.
so tell me what that was like. So you flew in to Thailand to Suvarnabhumi, and
Mm-hmm.
you posted a story, and I commented on it. It's like, man, that's got to be the most euphoric feeling, just driving out of Suvarnabhumi, but at the same time, it's like you know what you're in for 14
Yeah.
days. What was that like from start?
Yeah.
Like, so you get on the plane, and then what
Mm-hmm.
happens the instant you land? Is the um what do you call it, the immigration process any different?
Right. I'll just paint like a big picture of how
Mm-hmm.
COVID has affected just immigration and arriving at a certain country in general, especially
Mm-hmm.
Thailand. Well, as you know, if as Koreans, we can fly in and out of Thailand no problem. This was
Mm-hmm.
pre-COVID, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we like unlike Thai visas, we can just go as tourist visa, no need to apply for any special visa beforehand. We can just
Mm-hmm.
fly in and out, right? But now even that has changed. So unless you have a special work permit visa or a like a um, other types of visas like retirement visa or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Thailand will not allow you in. So already from there, country that
Mm-hmm.
focuses so much on tourism and foreign currency, you can see how things have changed in that aspect as well. So it took me around 50 or 60 days to get my final visa
Mm.
proceedings
And that's not
finalized.
normal, right?
And
That's
when
not
I
normal at all.
that is not normal. I can just,
Mm.
normally I'd be like, yo, I want to fly to Thailand. I can just go today or tomorrow, right? And so once I actually finally arrived in Thailand, they will, well, first of all, they'll check your temperature at least 3 times throughout just the process from getting off the plane and getting off the airport.
Just sounds
Yeah,
ridiculous. But at the same time, like it's worked, right? So
it
three
makes sense. It
times.
makes sense why. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So once you arrive, you know that long ass walk you have to do from the
Yeah.
airport, from the
It's
airplane
it's
to
actually
the
rather
immigration, right?
useful. Like you get your cardio up. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I get to walk again after this
Yeah,
amount of
it's
time or
basically
whatnot.
just a walking session of, looking at Thai ads.
Yeah,
But
Air Asia, what? Yeah.
yeah.
Um.
So now that process is basically just set up with a bunch of chairs. And once you just arrive at that lane, you have to
Yeah.
find your seat, and an airport official will come to you,
Mm-hmm.
check your documents, and they're not checking to get you approved or anything. They're just checking so that it will make the process easier for the immigration um, officer that will be at the front. That takes around like an hour just waiting
Mm-hmm.
for the people in front of you to get in line because they're going one at a time, and and they require so many documents now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at least like 6 more documents than before.
Mm-hmm.
The main being the document saying that you are COVID free, which you had to take from your home country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
that took a while. It took me around 3 hours total to get out of the
oh,
airport.
oh,
Yeah,
that'd be nice. Oh, that for me, that'd be just.
yeah, yeah.
I've never experienced because I the reason this is really interesting to me, man, because flying home for me is associated for a lot of us. It's associated with I'm gonna get to go home and see family and
Right,
friends again.
right.
People that I rarely get to see anymore. It's a
Yeah,
time that should be well spent, but 14
yeah.
days. Well, it's like that's time that if you're a working man, you don't have. And
That's
so
true.
I mean, and depending on your job, if you have a lucky enough to have like a work from home kind of work from anywhere job, that's one thing, right? But at the same time, you know, it's work. At least
Right.
by going by the numbers and the fact that I talk to people like our friend Zach, from
Hmm.
back home, obviously talking with family, it seems like people are just living their normal lives, and the only caveat
Right.
being they have to wear a mask and what they're a little bit
Hmm.
social distance. That's it. ICS
Yeah.
they just did a plane trip for I don't know middle school kids during COVID. That to me is unthinkable for the United States.
Right. Yeah.
It's insane, but the lengths that they went through to make this happen, it seems like you were pointing at that earlier. It's come
Hmm.
at an economic cost. Have you kind of already
Right.
seen that around you, like the proofs and kind of evidence of that come to fruition around you, just how much they've suffered economically, or is it just business as normal?
For me, uh, I actually can't really talk a lot about Thailand because I haven't been out of my hotel room since I've arrived,
Right,
so I
right,
haven't seen it
right,
firsthand.
right.
Right. But I can kind of talk about how Korea have been doing, um, due to the pandemic. So
Sure.
without going too deep, so basically it's been rough. Been rough.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of cutbacks. A lot of companies
Laying
not
off
just
workers.
yeah, not just laying off, but they're holding off hiring. So it kind of stalls that. Um,
Right.
it yeah, it bottlenecks the future like the labor force that's coming in, which is basically my age. Like I am at that period where I just graduated. I need to find a job,
Yeah.
and so Koreans, as you might have seen firsthand from American university experience, Koreans are pretty heavy into education. So
Mm-hmm.
most Koreans will have a university degree
Mm-hmm.
and a bachelor's degree. And so there are a lot of
Of
people my
heavily
age that are
overly
just
qualified people, just
right.
a
They
lot
are
of educated
yeah,
guys,
exactly.
basically.
They're looking for jobs. They can't get it because no one is hiring.
Mm-hmm.
And even if they do, it's very concentrated. Very little amount of people. So that was the thing that I saw firsthand, and thankfully I managed to land a position in Thailand. This is thanks to Poom, by the
Oh.
way. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So
Okay. So we're seeing firsthand
yeah.
connections. Your net worth is your network, basically, or your network is your net worth,
Yo, that's a good one.
basically.
That's a good one.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
a overly. You could
Totally.
put that on a. You could. You could probably see that on a Hobby Lobby inspirational poster. You could put it up in
Yeah, I
someone's
get.
office. But that
Yeah,
really is
it's a
true,
common
though.
for down.
So you're
It
not just
is.
traveling to Thailand for entertainment. This is work for you.
No, no,
This is
no, no.
you about to work
Yeah.
now.
Basically, tourism in Thailand right now.
It's at
They're
an
starting
all-time
to open
low.
up just a little bit, but they are only opening up to certain countries that are basically COVID free, which includes like New Zealand,
It's definitely
China
not.
somehow.
It's
I'm not
definitely
even gonna
not
talk
the
about
United.
that.
It's definitely not the
Yeah,
United States.
but I get that sense because Chinese tourists are one of the main spenders in Thai tourism. So they're opening up for China,
Hmm.
New Zealand, Australia, certain countries that are allowed.
Yeah.
Other than that, their tourism is basically banned. It's for now in Thailand.
Hmm. You saying that kind of raises a light bulb in my head. I mean, not that I have, but it confirms a theory as to why I've been seeing so many posts after posts and story after story of our friends from back home going and traveling to beaches, mountains, just these beautiful kind of landscapes. And it's because they've, if you're in Thailand right now and, let's say it's Songkran or Thanksgiving break and people already are reluctant to travel, guess what? That means rates are cheap as hell. Travel
Right.
anywhere, right? So
Hmm.
I kind of Yeah, so that just got me thinking there. And
Mm.
um for you, but you're not exactly going to Thailand to party. This is like work time for you. So to kind of
Right,
describe how
right,
you landed on this job, you obviously said you got it from connection. Boom, shout out. But like
hmm
how did you kind of come to determine that yes, I want to work in Thailand and I want to return to this country
right.
again? So,
So just going back to when I was in Amsterdam for my exchange
mhm,
student program, I um, it was a period where I've just finished the army. I was very jaded. I was very tired. I needed like a
mm,
break. I need some time like for myself, right?
yeah.
And somehow I during that period I've been able to reconnect like more with
Hmm.
our ICS, our high school friends. For example, Boom and Pretty. Shout out, like they came to um Europe. They came to Amsterdam.
Hmm.
Well, albeit it was for watching football. We've basically planned a football trip, but in the end, it turned out to be much more than that.
Yeah.
We've yeah, we've had time to grab a beer and just talk about everything in general. And
Hmm.
what that made me realize was um, they actually did most of the convincing. By the way, they just convinced me to come back to Thailand and work. My parents are still in Thailand. It just makes more economic, like financial and like career sense just to work in Thailand because
Sure.
they will appreciate me more with the skill set that I have. And so that was always in the back of my mind as I was progressing through college. And
Hmm.
once I did graduate, like I said, with the COVID pandemic, it was really hard to find a job. I was getting interviews, but every interview I was just getting rejected like after
Right.
the email.
Or even worse,
Right.
radio silence. That's the worst thing
Yeah,
that.
that's the worst. Because the scale to how this was happening was there would be one open position and there will be around 300 applicants, and
300
so
applicants.
that process was just very tiresome. It was very
Hmm.
tired. It was affecting me a bit. And the
Hmm.
final straw that broke camel's back was I had a pretty long-term relationship, but it you know didn't come to fruition. It kind of just ended. Yeah, so at that moment I was like, you know what, I'm done. I miss my parents. I don't want to go home, and I just started looking for work in Thailand.
How do you go about doing
So,
that? How did you
um,
first start about going that? Like I'm talking just not even the concept of it. Like what practically did you start to kind of
oh, okay.
put yourself online? Like kind of what did you search?
hmm
First of all, what did you major in? I don't think I even asked you this yet.
Oh, yeah,
What did you
yeah.
graduate?
I double majored in business and economics,
My
but
man, that's great.
yeah,
Nice.
but I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember anything about economics. I have zero knowledge.
Hey man.
Yeah, but actually, like the business side of things,
Mhm.
yeah, that was what I majored in Korea. Yeah, so the practical aspects of applying for a job in Thailand. I don't know how it's done in the States, but I mean, they have their own. Will have their own website for job application, like job posts that comes up. You should send them an email or send them the resume that you have
Mhm.
ready. LinkedIn is always pretty good. A
Yeah.
lot of openings there. Um, but yeah, it was really difficult for me from a past practical point to get a job in Thailand because there was that visa thing with the pandemic. I wouldn't be able to start working right away. So if it was a job that required someone to work like straight off, then I couldn't do that. This is where Poom's connection really like helped because they've been very patient. They allowed everything to go smoothly, prepared all the documents pretty well, and it also helps that I speak Thai, so
Yeah,
there
that's
was no
terrific.
problem with communications or anything, which
But I
is
do understand that, even going back to a place of comfort, well, not a place of comfort, but, something that is
hmm
familiar, that's something
right.
that across the board, talking to different friends, I've noticed it's a point of hesitation for a lot of people, even though it seems like a safe choice. For someone
hmm
like Zach, um, off the record, he's told me a bunch of times, there's been this gnawing sense of, I don't just want to go back to what I'm comfortable. I want to expand and I want to
Right.
grow. And for
Right.
someone like you, you've kind of seen, you've kind of already had the Bangkok experience, but I'm guessing and I'm assuming that the decision to go back wasn't just family. And
Mhm.
obviously, all the circumstances that broke down. It's kind of a you're kind of coming back to this country with a new. This is a new you. This is a
Right.
new. This is a
That's what
new
I like to
you.
think.
This is a new. This is a new Jinsoo 2.75 build that has all this going back into it. So that
Yeah.
has to be exciting for you just to be able to start fresh again.
Yes, I am. I am. What you just said was totally true. But also, the friends and family has to play a big factor,
Mm.
right? But like the family part had a big part because my dad actually was pretty sick
Mm.
around like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that point about Zach where you don't want to just be in your comfort zone, you want to expand. That was
Hmm.
me in Korea. That was what I wanted to do because actually
Oh,
Korea
okay.
was my out of my comfort zone. I had no family there. I mean, I just had relatives there. I had
Yeah.
no house there. So it was basically starting all fresh from Korea, right?
Hmm.
But then I just realized that maybe that was being a little bit selfish to myself because I love my parents. They've been such a huge part of my life. And yeah, so with my dad being a bit, um, not as healthy as I want him to be, and I've been away from him for it's been 7 years now. So
Yeah, same.
yeah, it's that feeling as well. Yeah, yeah, you must relate to this as well.
I absolutely do because unlike, well, kind of in reverse, this happened to me 7 years ago. And when I was just getting ready to go off to college, my dad entered. Somehow they found that he had stage 3 colon, and so
Oh my.
this was a rough time. And so the throughout, I say it to a lot of people, the most difficult year outside of this year probably would have been that first year just to leave, because I was
Mm,
leaving with this sense of guilt. Wasn't there for my parents at all. I wasn't there for my dad. And on top of that, I was doing poorly at school. So there was a whole lot of that going on. But
mm,
and so for you, I completely understand, wanting to be there. And now that a you have graduated, which is great, but now you also have like the power to help them out. Because if I had to stayed back home, guess
right.
what? I would I help them with, I don't have a degree, I don't um not that a degree is kind of is be all end all to rising economically, because there are a lot of people here that do, that go about their own way. But it's just like
Right.
you kind of have this path in front of you. You have to keep going, see where it leads. But to that, there are sacrifices that you made to stay in, right? So like it's one of those things where I hope it was worth it because it made you who you. Now you're going back to a situation where now this whole thing is fresh for you. Man, the thing I really wanted to, this whole quarantine, you get off the
Yeah,
plane,
yeah, yeah.
you get off the
Mm-hmm.
plane, you get on. See, I mean, talking about home, it brings up all different types of emotions. Honestly,
Oh
yeah, you
no.
get off the plane, you get set into these seats, and so at what point?
Uh-huh.
Here's the gray area in my head at the moment. Uh,
Right.
so what you're doing right now, is it state sanctioned, slash sponsored quarantine, or is it a quarantine of your choosing with a nice hotel vibe?
Um yeah, there are two separate types of quarantine. The
Mm-hmm.
one is um it's just the name is called alternate state quarantine, which is
Sure.
basically for foreigners or even locals who wish to, you know, pay out of their own expense to quarantine in a state um designated hotel. Yeah. They're all hotels, by the way. These state quarantines, alternative state quarantines.
Mhm.
So I am at one in Maple Hotel near Bang Na, if you remember. Yeah, so
Maple
I'm there,
Hotel.
but
Wait a minute. Is that the one? Is that
yeah,
shoot? Is
it's the
that
one
not
near
too far from
ICS.
the Nation Tower? It used to be like
Yes,
a
yeah, yeah,
giant
yeah.
restaurant. It used to be a giant seafood
Oh no,
restaurant.
no, no. I don't think so. I don't think it's that one.
It's not too far from the Novotel, basically.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, now I know exactly where it is. Jeez, you're a lot closer to home than I thought you were. Wow, that's
Yeah, man.
insane. All right,
Yeah, and so
that's
this
cool.
is ASQ, alternate state quarantine. The
Okay.
other one is alternative local quarantine, ALQ. I think that's it. that's
Okay.
when you have to do the quarantine at your place. And this is basically for Thai nationals.
Oh.
And funny thing is, I was uploading my Instagram stories of my quarantine experience. And if you remember Jump,
Yeah.
she is a air stewardess,
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
air
I remember
hostess, air
that.
hostess. Yeah, sorry, air hostess.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, so she's been. She told me that she's done through this quarantine thing 4 times,
Damn.
albeit it's at her own home. So, but still, man, I can't fathom doing it more than once. I'm only halfway through right now, too.
Um, in did you ask her at all whether she was paid for that time? Because that's time that you're not on
Oh,
the
yeah,
clock,
that's
basically. That's and I did see
right.
like I mean, not to pry into other people's stories, but I did see like she was working
Hmm.
at a cafe as well. So I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't exactly know what her situation is like. But yeah, that you just that's another thing that crossed my mind. These air hostess, people that work
Hmm.
in these situations, like they yeah, they're probably working a whole lot, but the quarantine thing isn't void on them as well. It seems like Thailand has
Exactly.
taken every single detail into account.
Mm-hmm.
Like just Jinsu, I want you to know, man. Everything that you've described to me now has sounded more concise, more
Hmm.
practical, and more deliberate than
Hmm.
anything I've heard coming out of the United States as far as their method.
Dude, that's something we should talk about, man. Like, what is going on?
I have no
What?
idea, man. I have no. Well, I have several theories. I work as an essential worker. I work at a grocery store. I do curbside service, and I handle
Okay.
a back room, manage whatever, just getting people their groceries. That's mainly our focus, right? Um, but before we even get to that, it sounds all the stuff you've
Okay.
described to me, by the way, sounds like what they're prescribing for professional athletes in the NBA slash the NFL. Like you guys are getting that type of treatment from the local government, you know,
Right.
which is insane because I look at
It
the
is. It
news.
is.
It's weird to see Thailand in the same conversation as a Denmark or a Netherlands or
Hmm. Well,
or New
um,
Zealand in terms of treatment like this. It's
yeah,
just bizarre.
same. Because we all thought that these, technically, what do you call those, like more developed, first world nations would be handling this a lot better. But now we're realizing that no, they're not. Um, I don't know if this is one of your theories, but just like in general, Western countries tend to become more individualistic. Like they're, the people with their personalities, right? And Asian cultures tend to be more, like more collectivist. We are more obedient to authority, which somehow people use that against us, saying that it's bad. But I mean, look at how we're handling everything right now, right?
I think it's more than that though. Like we're
Right, right. That was just basically very,
yeah,
very simple, yeah,
yeah.
generalization. But
I think it boils down to how people in different cultures handle because Thailand, I from the way my parents were talking, and you may be able to attest to this having talked to a bunch of friends, but it seemed
hmm.
like when this thing first started, Thailand, at least in Bangkok, right, people were so paranoid about this thing that they didn't go anywhere. Like they didn't, and when we say shut down in the
Right,
United States,
but it
you'll
helps
see
when the government tells you to stay home. Like when
exactly.
they yeah, when they actually, you know,
Hmm.
apply lockdown measures where you are fined or there is a curfew or anything, right? Because
Yeah,
Thailand's lockdown model was basically a mini version of China's,
yeah,
and I don't like to say it, but it worked, right? Copying
yeah.
China.
We're now seeing the fruits of their labor. Thailand as a country, right? It's a country of 70 million, and it's
Mhm.
you compare that with a single county in Indiana, which is where I am, Marion County, which is where I used to live.
Mhm.
Marion County accounts for more deaths, cases, and yeah, more deaths and cases than Thailand combined. Think about
More
that for a second.
deaths,
Yes, more deaths
more
and more
deaths.
cases than Thailand combined. As of right now,
Oh,
Marion
okay, okay.
County stands at right here. If I look here, 362,000 cases plus and
Oh,
6,000 deaths. Okay, that's Marion County, Indiana. Whereas Thailand, as a whole, You guys account for
I think like
so
4,000,
you
or
guys
5,000.
account for 4,000 cases and 60 deaths.
Yeah.
Look at how screwed those
Well,
numbers are.
mhm,
Whether you
exactly.
fully believe those numbers, that's a different story
Hmm.
altogether. But that just goes to show you, and I don't know. To me, I combine evidence with like common sense. I see people just living their normal lives, and the fact that
Hmm.
uh, people at our old school just have, um, I mean, people that wouldn't have an agenda otherwise. They're saying, you know, our life is completely normal.
Right.
Is it's unimaginable for where I am. So, dude, you're about to live an interesting life
Yeah, but
after this.
just on that point as well. I don't think a lot. I don't think most Thais I don't think most of our friends would agree with Thailand's reporting as well.
Yeah, me
Like in
neither.
terms of like 100% accuracy,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be more cases because it's there are considerably larger population who cannot afford to take a test.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Trump keeps saying it. They're doing more tests, so they're getting more cases, which is technically correct. 'Cause
Yeah.
people are allowed to take tests, and they are finding more
Mm-hmm.
cases, but it's definitely not at a scale where you are experiencing it. People are wearing masks everywhere they go here. I think. I hope. But sometimes when we see our friends' stories, yeah, it's too much, man. Like,
I don't. Yeah, that's for me.
yeah, it's
Social
not
media.
not
It's been
we
dangerous
shouldn't be
lately.
doing those stuff yet. Know what I mean?
Well, I
Like,
mean, certain friends, I don't think they have a choice. Some of these people, they really do travel for their work. Like,
I'm talking
it's
about like group crowds where,
yeah.
yeah, you know what I
I
mean.
I know exactly what you mean, but no, no, yeah, certain not to call certain people out, but it is what
No,
it
no,
is.
no,
You know,
we're not.
it is what it is, and you know we're not void of that here too. But the difference is, it's just kind of we're doing the exact same things here in America. The only difference is
Mhm.
we're paying for it dearly.
I think it's hard for us right now to specifically approach this from like a statistical or a very academic approach, but maybe just like anecdotally as well.
Sure.
You just like you said, if you're sick, do you have any problems going to the hospital? No, right? You just go to the hospital, get yourself checked. Like
Yeah.
that would be you wouldn't hesitate about it. But I think that also applies to the less privileged in Thailand as well. I think I can say this because my parents are church, they're missionaries,
Hmm.
right? So we have a local church where most of the congregation is very on the modest side of living,
Sure.
like, yeah, day to day, like living day to day. But even then, there are no issues with anyone who needs, if they're sick, they just go to the hospital. I don't
Hmm.
think you see that a lot in the States. Like, maybe it's over exaggerated, but I've seen people who said that if they have a heart attack, like, take me to the hospital through an Uber, not like an ambulance. Just that kind of,
Mm, yeah.
yeah. It's like, if you're sick, you go to the hospital. That's what everyone here is used to. But it's do you get what I'm trying to,
No, absolutely.
like?
But it's
Yeah.
I've never thought of it like that viscerally in terms of it should be completely obvious, right? But honestly, that's something I took for granted uh
Mm.
growing up. Cuz here it's like, well, maybe I'll get by if I don't, go cuz then what happens here is if you like take the same circumstance, right? You get sick, you go to the hospital. Here, you get sick, is my insurance going to cover this? Uh,
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
does my work insurance cover this? I don't really know because it is a very steep price tag here to go to get something as simple as
See.
like a
Yeah.
to get something as simple as a wisdom tooth, your wisdom teeth removed. Right, in Thailand, it's pretty normal. You go to whatever dentist place you want. Yeah, you can have medical
Right.
records, but they have a certain. It's more attainable. I don't know how they do it, but
Wait, how's it
somehow,
like in the States?
in the States, it's like
Like, you want
you
to get your wisdom tooth pulled?
it's more, well, I mean, they eventually do, but a lot of people our age are still under their parents' healthcare, like they're under their
Hmm.
parents' insurance policies. Our age, 25 and up, young adults
Yeah.
that are possibly parents. We
Yeah.
yeah, think about that for a second. There are people that are possibly parents that have insurance policies or paperwork, whatnot, on top of insurance things under their parents. So we're talking generational insurance. And this is just, and I guess I have to put the disclaimer out there. I'm not speaking from academic. Really, this is just what I've
Yeah, of
seen and
course.
what we've observed in an anecdotal sense. It's like we've seen, just basically, I think what I'm trying to say is, yeah, you would think it'd be as simple as going to the doctor. And for most people, it might
Mm,
be. But then here, there's that extra layer of how much it's really a battle with insurance companies, you know? Whereas back home, it's, yes, it is still a factor. But the main difference is people are more willing to go to the hospital because they know they'll get taken care of.
exactly.
They'll know the doctors will follow up on certain cases. Um, Whereas the amount of, basically, to put a cap on it, the amount of care that you'd get back home, cost wise, would far exceed normal costs in America as far as the level and quality of care that you get. I
That
don't know,
just
man.
sucks, man. Like, yeah.
Honestly, this has been great as far as being
Yeah.
able to reach
Sorry
out.
about the audio in the middle,
No,
man.
man, no problem at all. This is
Yeah.
part of it. Doing an international podcast.
Hopefully, see you soon, whether it's on real life or on our podcast. All right.
Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Thanks for
whoa.
having me
You
on,
you
man.
you just teased season 2. Hold on. Is there any hope for that? You said at the very
Yeah.
beginning that's kind of.
Yeah, it is. It is. We'll be announcing it soon, hopefully, and we'll have you on, right?
Not to talk too much.
Dude,
Right.
stay safe. Yeah.
All right, folks, that's been the Crunchy Take podcast. You've been listening to Jinsoo Park. Again, I'm sorry about all the constant cuts that I've had to do, but in order to salvage the audio that we had and just the conversation that we had, it was a great time. Thank you for listening so far, and yeah, tune in next time.